A couple of Canadians are NHL award winners. Canadiens captain Nick Suzuki has won the Frank J. Selke Trophy, while teammate Cole Caufield has been awarded the Lady Byng Trophy. And the league had the idea of having the two players
Something unbelievable just happened in Montreal, and NHL fans everywhere are starting to pay attention. Nick Suzuki and Cole Caufield have just sent a powerful message to the entire league. These two Canadian stars have achieved something that almost nobody saw coming, and it could change the future of this historic franchise. For years, Montreal Canadiens fans have been waiting for a reason to believe again. This is one of the most famous teams in hockey history, but the road back to the top has not been easy. There were tough seasons, disappointing results, and many questions about whether the team's rebuild was actually working. Some fans stayed patient, while others wondered if the Canadiens were still years away from becoming a serious contender. In just one day, two of Montreal's biggest stars received major NHL awards. Nick Suzuki won the Frank J. Selke Trophy, while Cole Caufield won the Lady Byng Trophy. These are not small awards. They're given to players who stand out among the very best in the entire league. For Canadiens fans, this was more than a celebration. It was a sign that the future they've been waiting for may finally be arriving. Let's start with team captain Nick Suzuki. Suzuki had the best season of his NHL career. He scored 29 goals and added 72 assists for a total of 101 points. Even more impressive, he played all 82 games of the regular season. This was his fifth straight season without missing a game. That kind of consistency is rare in today's NHL. But Suzuki was not only producing offense, he was also one of the league's best defensive forwards. That is why he won the Selke Trophy, an award given to the forward who shows outstanding defensive play. Suzuki's victory was not even close. He received 151 first-place votes from the Professional Hockey Writers Association, showing just how much respect he earned across the league. The achievement was historic for Montreal. Suzuki became only the third Canadiens player ever to win the Selke Trophy. He also became the first Canadiens captain in decades to record more than 100 points in a season. Those numbers show how important he has become to this franchise. But what made his season even more impressive was how he played the game. Despite scoring goals at an elite level, Caufield spent very little time in the penalty box. He finished the entire season with only 14 penalty minutes, helped him win the Lady Byng Trophy. The Lady Byng Trophy is awarded to the player who shows outstanding skill while also playing with respect and discipline. Winning this award placed Caufield in a special group of players. He became only the third Canadiens player ever to receive the honor and the first Montreal player to win it since the late 1980s. As the season went on, Caufield became one of the most dangerous offensive players in hockey. Defenders struggled to stop him. Goalies had trouble reading his shot. Every time he stepped onto the ice, fans felt like something exciting could happen. What made this story even better was the way both awards were revealed. The Canadiens organized a special surprise for Suzuki and Caufield. Each player believed he was there to help present an award to the other. Instead, both players discovered that they were the winners themselves. The reactions were genuine, emotional, and unforgettable. It was a moment that showed how close this team has become and why so many fans are excited about its future. And that future looks brighter than ever. The Canadiens finished the regular season with 48 wins, 24 losses, and 10 overtime losses for a total of 106 points. They were no longer a rebuilding team trying to stay competitive. They had become one of the strongest teams in the league. Their success did not stop there. Montreal advanced all the way to the Eastern Conference Final before their playoff run came to an end against Carolina. Even though they fell short of reaching the Stanley Cup Final, they showed the hockey world that they belong among the NHL's rising powers. Now, the Canadiens have something every great team needs. They have a captain who can lead in every situation. They have an elite goal scorer who can change a game with one shot. Most importantly, both players are still in the prime years of their careers. That is why these awards matter so much. This is not just a story about trophies. It is a story about a franchise that may finally be turning the corner. Nick Suzuki and Cole Caufield have given Montreal fans a reason to dream again. And if these two stars continue to improve, the rest of the NHL may soon discover that the Canadiens are no longer building for the future. The future may already be here. Shocking developments around Leon Draisaitl are sending a wave through the hockey world. Just when fans thought they knew where the Edmonton Oilers stood, new comments, growing speculation, and a series of unexpected reactions have changed the conversation. One statement from Draisaitl sparked questions across the NHL, but what happened next made this story much bigger than anyone expected. The discussion around Leon Draisaitl's future did not begin with a trade request or a contract dispute. It started after the Edmonton Oilers were eliminated from the playoffs. Expectations were high entering the season. The Oilers had already made deep playoff runs in recent years and were once again viewed as a serious Stanley Cup contender. Instead, the season ended without a championship, and attention quickly turned to what would happen next. Following the playoff exit, players met with reporters to discuss the season. During that media session, Draisaitl made comments that immediately caught the attention of fans and hockey insiders. According to reports, Draisaitl admitted that he was concerned about the current situation. The quote was simple. He said, "I am concerned." Those three words quickly became one of the biggest stories surrounding the Oilers. Fans began debating what the statement meant. Some believed Draisaitl was simply expressing frustration after another disappointing playoff finish. Others wondered if his comments revealed deeper concerns about the team's direction. The timing of those remarks made the reaction even stronger. Edmonton has spent years building around two superstars, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Together, they have become one of the most productive duos in NHL history. They have led the team to multiple playoff appearances and helped Edmonton reach the Stanley Cup final. Yet, despite those achievements, the championship that many expected has remained out of reach. As discussions continued, NHL insiders started paying closer attention. Much of the focus after the playoff exit had centered on Connor McDavid. Reports and speculation about McDavid's future were appearing across hockey media. But soon, analysts began pointing out that Draisaitl's future deserved just as much attention. That statement suddenly became important again. While rumors and speculation continued to spread, many fans returned to those words. Draisaitl had publicly committed himself to Edmonton for the long term. Yet despite that contract and those comments, the discussion was not slowing down. In fact, another development was about to push the story even further into the spotlight. As the discussion around Leon Draisaitl continued to grow, attention soon shifted beyond the player himself. New reports began highlighting reactions from people close to him. One story that gained attention involved Draisaitl's wife, Celeste Desjardins. Reports suggested that public signals connected to Desjardins appeared to push back against rumors claiming Draisaitl wanted to leave Edmonton. No official statement announced that Draisaitl was planning to leave the Oilers. No report showed that he had requested a trade. Yet the speculation continued because of the pressure surrounding the organization after another disappointing playoff result. At the same time, major changes were taking place inside the Oilers organization. Following the season, reports indicated that Edmonton was evaluating several areas of the team. Questions emerged about coaching. Trade rumors began appearing across hockey media. Discussions about roster changes became a daily topic. Those developments created an environment where every comment from a star player carried extra weight. The situation became even more interesting because Connor McDavid's future was also becoming a major topic across the NHL. As one of the league's biggest stars, McDavid's long-term future in Edmonton was being discussed by fans, analysts, and former players. As those conversations intensified, many people started connecting McDavid's future with Draisaitl's future. The reason was simple. The two players have spent years leading the Oilers together. They have become the face of the franchise and one of the most dangerous offensive combinations in hockey. During previous interviews, Draisaitl openly expressed support for McDavid remaining in Edmonton. In comments reported by Sportsnet, Draisaitl said, "Do I want him here forever? Yes, of course." That quote gained fresh attention as speculation continued to build. It reminded fans of the strong connection between the two superstars and their shared goal of bringing a Stanley Cup back to Edmonton. Yet despite all the rumors, the facts remained unchanged. Draisaitl is under contract with the Oilers through his 8-year extension. He publicly stated, "I take great pride in playing for our city, our fans." He also publicly supported McDavid staying with the organization. What sparked the latest wave of discussion was not a trade request. It was not a contract dispute. It was a short comment made after a difficult playoff exit. The statement, "I am concerned," became the center of a much larger conversation about the future of the Oilers. As the offseason moves forward, management faces growing pressure to improve the roster. The organization is working through questions about coaching, player personnel, and the path back to Stanley Cup contention. Meanwhile, Draisaitl's comments continue to be discussed across the hockey world. Not because he announced a departure, not because he demanded a change, but because one of the NHL's biggest stars publicly acknowledged concerns after another season ended without a championship, and that has kept the spotlight firmly on Edmonton's next move.
More of it. And, you know, when you're the manager, you take responsibility for it. So the responsibility is mine. But I always say management, coaching, players, we all share, right? We all got 33% of the pie here. You know, I certainly think that, you know, you can look and say there was injuries, and we at the beginning of the year, the goaltenders we had lost the goaltenders, but everybody goes through injuries. To me, those was an excuse. There was a fall off.
A shocking statement from former Maple Leafs GM Brad Treliving has reopened one of the biggest stories in hockey. After months of silence, he finally revealed what he believes destroyed Toronto's season. It wasn't one loss, it wasn't one player, and it wasn't one coach. His words pointed to something much deeper inside the organization, and what he said next changed the entire conversation. Brad Treliving is no longer running the Toronto Maple Leafs, but his recent comments have become one of the most discussed topics in hockey. Speaking publicly after his departure, Treliving addressed the disappointing season that ended far below expectations. Fans expected answers. What they received was a blunt assessment from the man who watched the entire season unfold from inside the organization.
Listen, we just didn't get it done, right? At the end of the day, you can sit here and there's all sorts of reasons. And like I said, there's, to me, a little bit of a death of a thousand cuts.
One quote immediately grabbed attention. Treliving described the season as a death by 1,000 cuts. It was a simple phrase, but it carried a powerful message. According to Treliving, the Leafs were not destroyed by one major event. There was no single game that ended their season. There was no one mistake that changed everything. Instead, many smaller problems kept building throughout the year until the team could no longer recover.
There, whether you know, we didn't have the buy-in. You can debate how we played a little bit.
That statement became even more important when Treliving shared another observation. He said, "We didn't have the buy-in." Those words quickly spread throughout the hockey world. Unlike many public comments after a disappointing season, this statement did not focus on one individual. Treliving did not name specific players. He did not blame the coaches. He did not point toward management decisions. Instead, he spoke about a larger issue involving commitment and consistency across the organization. The comments came after one of the most disappointing seasons in recent Maple Leafs history. Just 1 year earlier, Toronto finished with 108 points and won its division. Expectations were high entering the new season. Many believed the team could make a serious Stanley Cup run. The roster contained experienced players, star talent, and a new coaching staff. The goal was clear. Toronto wanted to compete with the best teams in the NHL. But the season quickly moved away from those expectations. Wins became harder to find. Consistency became a problem. The team struggled to build momentum. By the end of the season, the Maple Leafs had finished with only 78 points and missed the playoffs. The drop from 108 points to 78 points represented one of the largest declines in recent franchise history. As the season continued to unravel, attention also turned toward head coach Craig Berube. Berube arrived in Toronto with a strong reputation. He had won a Stanley Cup and was known throughout the league for demanding accountability from his players. The expectation was that his leadership would help the Leafs take the next step. Instead, the season continued to move in the wrong direction. Toronto struggled through difficult stretches. Losing streaks appeared at critical moments. The team often found itself trying to recover from setbacks, but never fully regained control of the season. As the losses mounted, pressure around the organization continued to grow. Eventually, Berube became one of the major figures connected to the disappointing results. After the season ended, he was dismissed. For many teams, a coaching change becomes the primary explanation for failure, but Treliving's comments offered a different perspective. Rather than focusing on coaching decisions, he described problems that extended beyond the bench. His death by 1,000 cuts comment matched what many fans witnessed throughout the year. Small mistakes became recurring issues. Missed opportunities added up. Difficult stretches lasted longer than expected. No single problem appeared large enough to destroy the season on its own. But together, those problems slowly pushed the team further away from its goals. That is why the phrase resonated with so many people. It described a process rather than a moment. It reflected a season where challenges continued to grow without a clear solution. The further the season progressed, the harder it became for Toronto to stop the decline. The disappointment eventually led to major organizational changes. Treliving was removed from his position as general manager. Berube was also dismissed. The franchise decided a new direction was necessary. Soon after, John Chayka was hired to lead hockey operations moving forward. The arrival of new leadership marked the beginning of another chapter for the Maple Leafs. Yet even as those changes took place, many of the same questions remained. Why did a team with championship expectations struggle so badly? Why did a roster filled with talent fail to find consistency? And what exactly did Treliving mean when he said the team lacked buy-in? His public comments did not provide a simple answer. Instead, they provided insight into how he viewed the season from inside the organization. He spoke about standards, he spoke about consistency, he spoke about accountability. Most importantly, he described a team that struggled to remain aligned as challenges continued to appear. That perspective has kept the discussion alive long after the season ended. Fans continue to debate what went wrong. Analysts continue to examine the collapse. Former players continue to discuss the issues that surfaced throughout the year. But among all the discussion, two statements remain at the center of the story. We didn't have the buy-in, and death by 1,000 cuts. Those words came directly from the former general manager who witnessed the season from start to finish. They have become the clearest explanation offered so far for one of the most surprising collapses in recent Maple Leafs history, and they continue to shape the conversation surrounding the organization today.
There's just a general feeling of dismay and disruption, right? And that's natural because the season was so bad. And now Chris Johnston's got a report in The Athletic today saying that Matthews, I guess as of now, not 100% committed to returning next year. Now, he's got 2 years left on his deal, so the Leafs have a say in this clearly. Correct. But if Matthews ever determines, I want out, then he's getting out. Yeah. It would be an absolute gong show if it went public that he wants out and they didn't trade him.
Something feels very wrong inside the Toronto Maple Leafs organization, and fans are starting to notice it. A few shocking words from Austin Matthews have now turned into massive NHL rumors, emotional fan reactions, and growing fear about the future of one of hockey's biggest superstars. But what's happening behind the scenes may be even bigger than anyone expected. The Toronto Maple Leafs are one of the biggest teams in hockey. They have millions of fans, massive pressure, and one goal every single season to win the Stanley Cup. But instead of celebrating success, the team is now surrounded by fear, rumors, and questions about their biggest superstar, Austin Matthews. Over the last few weeks, NHL fans started noticing something strange. Matthews was no longer giving strong answers about his future with the Maple Leafs. During an interview, he said something that instantly shocked the hockey world. Matthews said, "You can't predict the future." Those words were enough to send Maple Leafs fans into full panic mode. Why? Because Matthews is not just another player. He is the captain of the team. He's the face of the franchise. He is one of the greatest goal scorers in the NHL today. Ever since Toronto selected him first overall in the 2016 NHL draft, fans believed he would bring a Stanley Cup back to the city. But now, many people are wondering if Matthews is slowly losing faith in the organization. This season turned into a disaster for Toronto. The Maple Leafs failed to meet expectations again. The team struggled under pressure, and once the season ended,